Hello and welcome. This is Vintage Story, and I'm going to teach you a couple things about pit kilns and the new bread oven. So what you're going to do is you're going to spawn in a regular world. Obviously this is kind of a creative setup, but you're going to need all of these things that are set up here just to cook bread. So you're going to go amongst the world and you're going to get yourself some flint or some stones. You're going to need to take these stones and put them together with some sticks. Either you find sticks on the ground or you look for these branchy leaves and it'll drop a stick. Now once you get that all set up, you're going to want to take your flint, right click and shift on the ground, make some knife blades. Now the reason I'm going to go into full details on this is to make sure there are no things skipped so you get the full experience. So now we're going to make ourselves a knife. Once you get our knife, we're going to look in the world for these cattails. Once we get those cattails, we should be good for the moment. Now we are going to need a tree to be cut down, so we're going to make ourselves an axe. We're going to take our axe. We're going to cut this tree down. Now it can be any tree. This tree obviously does not have the normal tree physics because I placed all these blocks here, but at least now you have the visual representation of it. Once you have your logs, you're going to use your axe and cut them into firewood. This is going to be something you're going to need for a few recipes. Now, next step is you're going to go into the world and you're going to need to look for some clay. So now you're going to need a shovel. Let's make ourselves a shovel. Now the reason I open my inventory while doing this is so I don't have to constantly adjust the screen. So here I'll show you again. Let's make a spear. So instead of doing it like this where the whole screen moves with it, I open the inventory and now I can just move my mouse. Makes it a little less disorienting. Alright, so now we've got our shovel. Perfect. And I'm blind, can't see it. So you're going to go around in the world, look for some clay. Now there's two variations of clay. There's red clay, or I guess fire clay in this sense. And then there is blue clay. Now blue clay, you cannot build any kind of raw material like this. It's only used in, or actually, I'm not 100% sure. You can probably make stuff out of blue clay as well. I think this actually is blue clay, to be honest, but anyway, that's besides the point. So you're going to need clay in the world. You're going to right click on the ground and it's going to show your recipes. But first off, we need to show the pit kiln. So you're going to click whatever item you want to build and you're going to build it. So for this sake, we're going to throw that on the ground. Actually, I think we can shift and right click. Anyway, you're going to dig yourself a 1x1 hole and you're going to place that in there. Now this is where I thought the cattails were going to come in handy, but it's just the grass here. So you're going to need lots of this grass. This is going to be one of the main materials in the very early game that you're going to need. So get lots of grass. This dry grass here. I'm not 100% sure on how much you need, but I think it's 10 per pit kiln. So once you get up to your item, you're going to shift to crouch and right click your grass to fill the bottom of the pit kiln. Now it will not fill anymore. Once it's done, it's done. And at this point, we're going to need ourselves some more sticks. So you're going to have to go around the world, look for sticks, but in this case, I've already got some here. So next step for the pit kiln is to right click and you're going to place as many sticks as it'll allow, which is usually only a 2-click on one of these. Might be a couple more for different items, but for right now, this is what we're going to need. Next step here is to get your firewood and then shift right click on top. You're going to need, what was that, 16 or something like that? I'm not 100% sure at this moment, but anyway, the vessel is the only one that you'll need extra logs for. If you want to say do a pickaxe mold or a hammer mold, which is the two items that you'll need to get into the Copper Age, those need to go down as well. So we're going to find ourselves obviously more than a stack of grass. I'm going to do the same thing here, do our sticks, and then do our firewood on top. And of course I don't have enough firewood, so we're going to just grab a few more. There, now we've got a Pitkiln pickaxe mold, hammer mold, and our storage vessel, which are usually the first couple things that you'd want to use in the world. So next step, we're going to need to make a torch. So with our sticks, we're going to place them in the inventory like this. We're going to make ourselves a fire starter. Now you can either use just the fire starter on this to get it lit, which will take a little bit of time. I don't think it'll light first try. Or we can open our campfire up and put our sticks in, which is going to create torches, which makes this process a little easier. There we go. I'm going to wait for a torch to cook up. Now obviously most of these steps you have already gone through, but just for the sake of this video, we are going through them all, so bear with me here. Around 300 these light up, perfect. So now we've got our torch, shift right click on top. Now the reason I have this wood tower here is because anything near these pit kilns will light on fire. So do not leave wood items next to your pit kilns. So we're going to light all these three on fire. Eventually this tree trunk is going to catch on fire. And it should disappear over time. But anyway, next step, we need to get into the Copper Age. So you're going to run around the world, you're going to find these little stones here. You're going to gather up as many of these as you can. You need about, I think, 40 usually in the world. Where's my shovel? Usually in the world, once you find those little chunks, you would dig down and you would find your copper ores. But you can't do anything yet because you would need to make a raw crucible, do a pit kiln to the crucible, it'll come out as a normal crucible, then you're going to throw that in the fireplace with all your little biddies here. It's going to cook up with some charcoal. You guys should know how to make charcoal by putting logs in a hole and putting a fire on it, blah blah blah. So now we are going to need a few more tools here. So you've made your pickaxe and your hammer. Now that you have your hammer, you're going to obviously look for 900 units of coal. You're going to dump it into this anvil mode, or mold. It's going to pop out as a copper anvil. Now you can finally make a saw, because the next steps are going to need this saw. Now with your saw, you're going to cut up some planks from your logs and trees and such of the sort. You're going to get yourself some planks. You're going to find a way to make a bucket, which is, I think, linen thread and some planks. And that's going to be for another step. So now once you have your copper pickaxe, you're going to need one of these, which is a quern, or kern, or however you spell it. Anyway, the only way to make one of these is by getting stone. Here, let me show you the recipe. You're going to need stone rocks, which is the full block. Now, some of you know that as soon as you break a rock, you get stones. So in this case, you need this block to be isolated from any other block touching it. So we're going to break the top one. We're going to break this one that's touching. See the top, side, bottom, nothing is touching it. Once I break this, there we go, we have a full block, which might not pick up, and there we go. So now we have this full block. We're going to need 4 of them to make this quern. Once that is complete, on to the next step. you're going to need your mature crop. Once you have gathered this, again, we will throw all of our stuff away for the purpose of this video. We're going to go to our corn, we're going to plop that in there, and then we're going to right click on the top of the thing, the corn here. That's going to grind it up. Once you have whatever you need, we're going to make a bit because we're going to show you a couple different recipes. Now this video is a little bit longer than it should be. It could be cut and edited and all that stuff, but I'm the raw gamer. We're going to give you everything raw here. So now the bucket. The bucket is going to be used here. We're going to need some water, and we're going to make ourselves known to the tables here. So once you get your flour, we're going to put that in our inventory with our water, and that is going to make dough. So this still has 5 liters. You can get 10 units of dough per bucket. So now we have our dough. But normally we wouldn't have our clay oven yet. So now we have to go back and obviously use our clay. Actually, I don't want to get rid of those. I'll get rid of that. We're going to go to our clay oven. We're going to start building. Obviously I'm not going to do it, but you get the idea. Turns into this. You do not need to Pitkiln this. Once you build it, it is ready to be picked up and placed anywhere that you need it. Shift click on any item. Now this is where these tables come in handy. So your planks are either going to make a wooden table like this, or you're going to find one in the ruins, just like an aged wooden table. So now we're going to take our dough, and if we shift right click on the table, we are going to get a pie crust. Now if you had a bunch of berries or any type of food really, you could keep placing them in there. I might as well cheat and show you. We'll get some cranberries here. And then we're going to, I think you can just right click until it's full. You're going to need another piece of dough to cap it off. Actually it takes 2. So it's 4 dough for 1 cranberry pie. So now, how do we get this from where it says temperature cold up top to heat it up? Well, we're going to need our logs again. So we're going to go back and grab some more logs. Oops, I'm still in creative. I will just change that quick so it's not as confusing. So we're going to pick up all of our logs here. We're going to make our way back to our oven. We're going to shift right click inside. 6 logs will be the maximum, as you cannot put any more. Throw those on the side here. This is where the torch comes in handy again. We're going to light our clay oven on fire. We're going to wait for it to slowly cook up. It'll get about 200 and some degrees Celsius. You'll see eventually these logs will disappear. Now that we have our pies ready to be cooked, right now it's raw. Once this gets up to temperature, we're going to show you how to cook that as well as bread. I'll also eat some of these cranberries to keep my starvation down. So we're at 240 degrees, it should be getting close. The fire will stop and the logs will disappear. Come on now, please and thank you. Looks like it's going to get about 280. Perfect, 280 is where it stops. So now we're going to right click our pie, we're going to throw our pie in there. Now if you look closely, you can actually see the pie growing. As it gets warmer and warmer, it'll start rising and it'll start changing color as well. And there you go, it starts to rise. Now the one thing to be careful of is to not take it out accidentally, because it'll restart the whole process again. So it'll go from raw to part baked to cooked and then to charred if you leave it in there for too long. So right now, as you can see, it says part baked. If you do not see that, I think it's B. B on the keyboard will pop your information up. It should be just about done here. I guess I could have counted how many. There we go. So now we've got perfect temperature cranberry pie. And now we can take our dough. We can do the same thing. We can just right click them. Now you can add up to 4 at a time. They will all cook at the same time unless you put them in separately. This is going to cook at, I believe, 200 degrees. It'll start to rise. So now that we have our beautiful pie here, we cannot just eat it whole. So we need to grab our trusty little knife wherever I threw that. Oops, there it is. We're going to right click on the pie to get 4 little chunks. Now these chunks you can eat. Once you cook them perfect, they will be whatever you put in them for the food. And as you can see, this is still dough, and it's at 231 degrees. This clay oven will slowly get down to 0 over time, but you can, once you don't have any more bread or pie in it, you can place up to 6 more logs in there and fire it right back up. So I'm going to let this get to the charred phase. Toss those aside. See, now that tree is gone because their pit kilns have completely destroyed it. So right now we've got our part baked, which is 150 saturation or satiety or whatever. And as you can see, I stopped the process of it being cooking, so you're gonna have to let it get back up to temperature before it'll go on to the next stage. And as you can maybe see, these rise as well. Nice little animation that they've added for it. Actually, just for demonstration, we're going to just cheat in some. Oops, if I could spell properly. So we have charred spelt, so 210 saturation. Oh, I did catch it in time. Or you get 300 for a properly cooked spelt bread. So you do lose a bit of the food here, or the hunger meter, if you overcook it. So now you can eat this bad boy up, and there's your bread. Alright, so the pit kilns do take a little bit of time. So we're just gonna get our time to go by, and there we go. They are complete. Now you can right click them, place them wherever you need them. And that is the pit kiln and the bread oven, all in one video. Hope this helped you guys out, and if you have any questions, leave them down in the comments. Take it easy.